How can an empire, which survived for over 1,000 years, simply vanish in the span of 53 days? The fall of Constantinople in 1453 was far more than a battle. It marked the dramatic end of the Byzantine Empire, the direct heir to Rome, and permanently fractured the map of the modern world. Standing against the remnants of that ancient power was the young, formidable Sultan Mehmed II, whose singular ambition was to claim the city as the magnificent capital of his Ottoman Empire. For nearly 2 months, the world watched a brutal siege unfold. Towering, legendary defenses, the Theodosian Walls, were battered by colossal new cannons, while the weary Byzantine forces, led by the determined Emperor Constantine XI, fought desperately for their very civilization. Then, on May 29th, the Ottoman army stormed the city, ending Byzantine rule forever. This singular event reshaped global trade, forced European exploration onto new oceans, and transformed Constantinople into Istanbul, the enduring heart of a Muslim empire that would dominate the region for centuries. This is the definitive story of the city's collapse, the figures who defined the conflict, and why its legacy still echoes powerfully today. To fully appreciate the siege, we must recognize the dire straits of the Byzantine Empire. By the mid-15th century, it was a mere fragment of its former glory. Once a vast power spanning the Mediterranean, the empire had been reduced to little more than the city of Constantinople itself, with a few surrounding territories in Thrace and scattered Greek holdings. This decline wasn't swift, but the result of centuries of foreign pressure and internal discord. A particularly devastating blow came in 1204 when the Fourth Crusade betrayed the Christian city, capturing it, looting its irreplaceable treasures, and installing Latin rulers for almost 60 years. Though the Byzantines finally retook their capital in 1261, the treasury was empty, the population was severely diminished, and many of its once grand monuments had fallen into irreversible decay. By the early 1400s, the burgeoning Ottoman Turks had seized most of Anatolia and the Balkans, leaving Constantinople completely surrounded. Survival relied on uneasy truces, tribute payments, and the slow, uncertain hope of aid from Western Europe, an alliance often crippled by deep mistrust between the Orthodox Byzantines and the Catholic West. Emperor Constantine XI, who ascended in 1449, inherited this precarious position. Despite his remarkable personal bravery, his resources were minimal. The empire could only muster a few thousand native soldiers, supplemented by small mercenary groups from Genoa and Venice. The only true hope lay in the city's most formidable defense, the Theodosian Walls. Built in the 5th century, this massive triple line of walls, complete with a wide moat, had protected the city from countless invaders for nearly 1,000 years. Could this legendary fortification withstand the enemy one last time? While Byzantium struggled, the Ottoman Empire was ascending rapidly. Originating from a small Anatolian state in the late 13th century, the Ottomans had built a powerful state through disciplined armies and capable rulers. At the heart of this success was Mehmed II, born in 1432, who became Sultan in 1451 at the age of only 19. Unlike his predecessors, Mehmed was consumed by the goal of capturing Constantinople. For him, it was essential not just for conquest, but to fulfill a prophecy and legitimize his rule as the inheritor of the Roman legacy. Mehmed keenly understood the city's strategic value. It controlled the Bosphorus Strait, the vital artery connecting the Black Sea to the Mediterranean. Control meant domination of the rich trade between Europe and Asia. The young Sultan's preparations were immediate and calculated. He expanded his navy and commissioned the swift construction of the Rumeli-Hisar fortress on the European side of the Bosphorus, directly opposite the older Anadolu Hisar. Together, these fortresses gave the Ottomans absolute control over the strait, effectively cutting off Constantinople's access to external naval aid. Crucially, Mehmed pioneered the use of devastating large-scale siege artillery. He hired a Hungarian engineer named Orban to craft colossal cannons, one of which could fire a stone ball weighing over half a ton. These new weapons were about to test the fabled Theodosian Walls as nothing before ever had. As 1453 dawned, the confrontation was inevitable. The contrast in military strength was stark. Inside the city, Constantine XI could muster maybe 7,000 fighting men, including crucial foreign reinforcements like the Genoese captain Giovanni Giustiniani Longo, who commanded the defense of the vulnerable land walls. Against them, Mehmed's army swelled to an estimated 80,000 to 100,000 soldiers, including the elite janissaries, and a blockading navy of over 100 warships. The siege began on April 6, 1453, with the massive Ottoman army encircling the city. Mehmed immediately unleashed his giant cannons, firing relentlessly at the land walls. The devastating shock of each impact created breaches and shook the confidence of the defenders, who had long believed their walls were invincible. Yet, the Byzantines responded with incredible resilience. Every night, masons, monks, and ordinary citizens worked tirelessly to repair the damage with stones, wood, and brick. Giustiniani's disciplined troops proved invaluable, holding key sections and repelling initial assaults. But the defenders knew their small numbers meant every loss was irreplaceable. At sea, the Byzantines held a temporary advantage, thanks to a huge defensive chain stretched across the mouth of the Golden Horn, successfully blocking Ottoman access to the vital harbor. This early success was crucial, yet Mehmed was already plotting a seemingly impossible, audacious plan to circumvent this obstacle, a move that would truly seal the city's fate. As the siege moved into May, the stalemate reached its breaking point. Mehmed's determination led to a masterstroke that stunned the entire Christian world. Despite the great chain blocking the harbor, Mehmed ordered his engineers to haul over 70 Ottoman ships overland. Using greased wooden logs as rollers, the vessels were dragged across the hills north of Galata and launched into the Golden Horn, completely bypassing the massive chain. The sight of enemy ships already inside the harbor was horrifying to the Byzantines and deeply damaging to morale. The city was now completely blockaded, and the defenders, with their limited resources, could no longer fully contest the harbor. Naval skirmishes continued, but the noose was tightening. Inside the walls, Emperor Constantine XI remained the steady, unwavering heart of the defense, constantly inspiring his troops and citizens. Hope of Western rescue was fading, and with the walls weakening under the relentless artillery fire, Mehmed prepared for the final all-out assault, a desperate climax to a 1,000-year story. By the evening of May 28, 1453, Constantinople was on the brink. The defending forces were exhausted, the walls were shattered, and supplies were dangerously low. Mehmed ordered his men to fast and rest, assuring them the coming dawn would bring glory. Inside, Constantine XI addressed his troops in a final, poignant speech, resolving to die as the last Roman emperor. In the early hours of May 29th, the attack began. The assault came in waves, designed to exhaust the defenders before Mehmed unleashed his elite, disciplined janissaries. The fighting on the walls was desperate. The defense suffered a catastrophic blow when Captain Giustiniani was gravely wounded and carried from the field, causing morale to crumble. Emperor Constantine XI, refusing to flee, is said to have cast off his imperial regalia and plunged into the fray, vanishing forever in the melee. The emperor who fell with his city. The janissaries eventually forced their way through a critical breach near the gate of St. Romanus. Resistance collapsed. Ottoman banners rose over the walls, and after hours of brutal struggle, the 1,000-year-old Byzantine capital fell. By noon, Mehmed II entered the city in triumph. The dream of generations of sultans was fulfilled. The last remnant of the Roman Empire was gone, and a new age had irrevocably begun. Mehmed immediately began transforming his prize, repopulating the city with diverse communities, Muslims, Christians, and Jews, and reviving it as Istanbul, the thriving, cosmopolitan capital of the Ottoman world. For Europe, the consequences were profound. The fall of the city severed the primary overland trade routes between Europe and Asia. With the Ottomans controlling the Silk Road, European powers were forced to seek alternative routes by sea. This directly spurred the age of exploration, leading to the voyages of explorers like Columbus and Vasco da Gama, and indirectly ushering in the global era of discovery and colonial expansion. Culturally, the exodus of Greek scholars and manuscripts to Italy fueled the Renaissance, rekindling classical learning and forever shaping Western thought. While Byzantium perished, its intellectual legacy survived to influence the modern world. For the Orthodox Christian faith, the loss was a tragedy that led Moscow to claim the mantle of the Third Rome. History reminds us that no empire is eternal, yet from the ashes of Byzantium came new chapters that changed the course of humanity forever. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most decisive moments in history, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more content, and stay tuned for our next animated historical journey.